Hey everyone, good evening. Welcome to Free Enterprise After Dark. I can't believe they're letting me do this again. And we have a good one between Sylverfyre and Marten Broadcloak. Game 2 of their match. Marten playing for a clean sweep and moving on to play Night Dew. Sylverfyre playing for their tournament life, trying to force a Game 3. My name's Rybon. I am joined by the one, the only, everyone's favorite Free Enterprise playing marsupial, Possum Morpheus. Possum, how's it going tonight?
Hey, I'm a talking trash can. It's going great. I'm always happy to be here, especially when I get to be here with great folks like yourself, Rybon, and with great runners and a great race to look forward to between Martin and Silverfire here. I'm very hyped to see what our runners decide to do, where they decide to path, what fades they decide to make, how many sirens they decide to do, how many omelets they decide to devastate. So we'll see what our runners opt to do. I know that we have Iridia start here, and I, for one, love that. Give me Leviathan, give me Sylph, let Iridia hit things.
That, or give me some better characters, then let me just kill Rydia off at the start and have a ready-made anchor. One of my favorite uses for her, but who knows what we'll actually find this particular flag set. We have some very interesting objectives too. A couple up here on the moon. What do you think? Unfortunately, no giant, as much as I was hoping to see it, but we have a lot of interesting objectives here.
Well, with a couple on the moon, specifically looking at them both being at the bottom of the moon in the Masa and Ribbon room, that means that our runners are very unlikely to do a top-down approach on the moon. So you're almost certainly not going to see divergence once our runners get up there. Where you are likely to see divergence is on the overworld or on the way back down from the moon. One of the kind of neat things that you can get when all of the objectives are at the bottom is, let's say our runners find things like a Luca key, an Earth crystal, stuff like that that's just kind of hanging out on the moon. You may see one of them chase, and the other decide to do, let's say, the Murasame altar or Value Cave, and the other fade it. So could get some really interesting routing because there is no top and bottom moon options, just double bottom of the moon. The Forge is always interesting. That's one that stands out to me. One of the other interesting things here is with no Twin Harp and no Tower of Zot as objectives, those are incredibly long checks. And our runners are very unlikely to be happy to do them. So you may see some calculated gambles or fades of those particular spots as well. So there's a lot to unpack here just by what's available and what's not.
Absolutely, lots of different gambles for both of our runners. I mean, if they're not happy with that party, that Tower of Thought may be very attractive, and if they are happy with their party, it may be a last location check for both of them. Also, I just want to call out Silverfire's naming scheme. Fantastic tarot card naming scheme, especially like mentioning the DKC as Justice. I get the joke. I like it a lot. But no, yeah, you're absolutely right. We may not get music tonight. It may just not be in the cards, but we'll see.
I like it in the cards. Nice. With the tarot stuff. It's cool. I'm highlighting that because it took me a minute to get it. And I feel that everyone should know that I promise I'm awake. So, as far as our runners are concerned, though, starting with this Iridia, the high roll here obviously is a Dancing Dagger. I think second is probably something like a Lilith Rod, maybe even a Power Staff. What types of things are you looking for with a Iridia for looting patterns and stuff like that? Are you a Troya Public Treasury fan? Or, what are you looking to do, especially now that we see what is not a power couple in any sense? These are two of the weaker characters to start with. What do you like to do with a Rydia and a Yang other than get any two other characters?
I may not be the best with this because I sure loot a whole lot of this particular flag set, but at this point with a Yang, with a Rydia, I am looking for JIO. I want a Dancing Dagger if I don't have one already, like you mentioned. That would be a great high roll for Rydia and give her some pretty decent offense, pretty decent utility early game, but if not, I need to get through that Hob somehow, and if it's not an edge up there willing to carry me for the remainder of the overworld, then I need a Boreas, I need big bombs, I need Star, Dust, I need everything. Everything to get through that, because right now, this party is not beating anything.
Yeah, this is an interesting one for me. I like Silverfire's approach of doing a little bit of looting here in Watery Pass. I do wonder, though, if we are going to see some looting of lower quality areas, as we see an adamant rock picked up that is half of objective number 2, forging the legend sword of adamant. But I'm curious to see if we get some looting of lesser desirable locations, because that's where your J items may be more likely to be. Things like poison claws as well. Stuff that normally suits this party, maybe dancing daggers, as opposed to your normal places like Eblin or like a full watery pass. And we did see a black belt though for Sylverfyre and a Sylph summon on Marten's side. So if Marten can go down Antlion Cave and get a full 1500 XP there, he will have the MP on Rydia to tent up and then take on Hobbs. That could be a very important point of deviation here immediately off the bat.
Yep, that Sylph summon, very important, could be both of our players' complete early game offense. As you mentioned, though, you do need to get that 1500 XP on Rydia, and that would unfortunately ruin her ability to be a pretty decent anchor for the most part, unless we happen to find a curse ring. So you're throwing that away. We'll have to find a different anchor if there happens to be like a forced hook route or anything like that, but desperate times call for desperate measures. Unfortunately, for Sylverfyre as well, and for Marten both, I didn't see any J items looted on either one of their sides. So it's that Antlion could still pose a problem or a bit of a challenge for both of our runners.
Yeah, the only things that we have seen so far are, random bits of, to be frank, crappy equipment. On Marten's side, he picked up a couple really nice things in the shop, though. We saw 2 poison claws, which is huge, and then also a mute knife in Troya. That mute knife, especially with the prevalence of edges on this flag set, has been an absolute game changer in so many seeds, having access to mage mashing versus not. So I'm very curious to see if either of our runners are able to find an edge and really, leverage that mute knife early on, because it is an incredible piece of equipment.
Absolutely. I mean, also pretty decent for Rydia as well. Would increase her damage on that Sylph summon should it come to that particular point, as she can equip it. To answer a question in chat, Jason Nell is asking, would heading to Eblin Castle be of any value here or just a potential distraction? I think it'd be pretty similar to what Sylverfyre did by looting that Watery Path. Watery Path generally had the same loot curve as Eblin Castle, although the chests in Eblin Castle are more condensed, and there's a few more of them, I believe. So you would be finding maybe higher tier items. You're unlikely to find the J items you're generally trying to find in this particular situation to make your early games easier. I think both of our runners would be better served by just trying to dive that Antlion, as mentioned, trying to get that 25 max MP on Rydia and just running with that.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that assessment there, Rybon. And I do think this is interesting for Marten. Maybe thinking, I don't like my prospects of getting through Antlion with this party, and maybe saying, let me see if I can pick somebody up here, like, I don't know what we've seen for Kayn, maybe a Flame Spear, I think, or an Edge. Maybe try to pick someone up that can really help, and also at that same point, save you a Sylphcast or two, because as good as Sylphcast is, it does take a long time. And we see a Palom. Now, Palom is the 3rd character being added to this team that will be amazing in 50 levels. This is not exactly what you're looking for right now. As great as Palom is, this team needs help now, not an hour from now.
Yep, Palom, unfortunately, not who you're looking for. As this is a great spot for XP, though. About 4 or 5k XP from the Steve Mist. A very punchy boss, however. Marten will be able to get through this with enough Cure 3s and enough patience, but man, it's going to be a bit of a slog, and maybe eat all of his Cure 2s, actually. I'm sorry, I believe I said Cure 3s, but yeah, his Cure 2s itself will be a dwindling supply in the very short term, and hopefully this ends up being worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Palom is ultimately worth it. Those level 2 spells will supplement the Sylph damage from Rydia. As long as he can keep one or both of them alive, that's the goal here. If both of them perish in this fight when it resolves, that's a huge blow to the future, if you will, or the immediate future for this party. You really want that help right now rather than, again, getting that help later.
Marten's about halfway through this fight right now. That Rydia's down, though. I think this power punch will get us within about 300 HP from killing this D-Mist. We'll be taking another Mist phase. Sylverfyre, meanwhile, heading on up to Hobbs, finding their D-Mist. We'll see if they're able to get through this fight any more efficiently than Marten is.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough one. In Sylverfyre's case, I think having Rydia in the middle with only 4 agility is actually going to be a detriment here. It's going to make this D-Mist be a little bit speedier, and I think Marten, by having Yang in the middle, is going to have a better time here, so I'm a little worried about how long this fight's going to take, frankly, for both of them. But Syl in particular is... it's going to be a lot trickier with that Rydia in the middle. But Syl may also think, hey, I have a Palom and a Yang now. I don't need this Rydia, even with Sylv.
True, this could pay off for Sylverfyre in the future if, like I mentioned, Rydia makes a fantastic anchor, starting with, I believe, 4 agility, pretty much making everyone around her RA1. If you do have a nasty hook route that's required, Syl will have that option of having a ready-made anchor. Marten will not, as everyone got levels on his side. However, he'll be blazing through this overworld quite a bit quicker behind that power of that fully powered Rydia, who now has Sylph online.
Yeah, having Sylph online is a big deal, and also, and I don't know if Sylverfyre has this or not, but that Odin orb floating around could lead to some cheeky plays in places like Eblin Castle. So if you do head over there to loot, as Antadale pointed out in chat, that Eblin does have, excuse me, Eblin does have a 40% chance, or 30% chance of having tier 4 items in it, which are things like cursed rings, J items, stuff like that. So it could be very beneficial, and maybe get a cheeky Odin cast or two to help our runners through there. But Marten is looting a little bit on his way down the Antlion cave, and notably did pick up a dancing dagger from one of the first 2 chests in Antlion cave. So that's an interesting point where if he had come down here first, he would have picked, well, he would have been sad if he came down here first, because here's an alt gauntlet, and this is just gross.
I mean, Sylph will be kind of useful here. Unfortunately, single target, but at least we'll keep your party going, at least in regards to healing for the purposes of this. But pretty happy, I'm sure, to find this Palom up here. Pure Fire 2s, Lit 2s will be perfectly fine through getting through the alt gauntlet, especially with the lack of kick power behind Yan, with the lack of J items to move through it pretty quickly. So hopefully this is worth it, at the very least, because you don't want to sit through this very long alt gauntlet without, ready-made first turn area of effect attacks and come away with nothing to show for it.
Yeah, this is a really rough one. This is honestly my least favorite overworld gauntlet, because of how you find it versus where you are in the game. Notably, Sylverfyre does pick up XP on all 3 characters, so not going the route of Anchor Rydia, at least not yet. But back to this gauntlet, my least favorite gauntlets in the game are the Ogopogo spot, because, well, we all know the trials and tribulations of the Ogopogo spot gauntlet, the sealed cave, and then this gauntlet here in Antlion. The reason is you just normally aren't prepared to go through 5 fights in any way, shape, or form that's quick. So what you can, maybe even think about doing is resetting out of this until you get Virus on Palom and come back with a Virus. That would be maybe a possible solution, but it's rough. That Dancing Dagger, though, doing work here for Marten.
Yeah, definitely showing off the power of Dancing Dagger early off. Sylverfyre saying, I don't want to do Antlion right now. I'm going to go do some bold defense. So if this ends up being nothing and Sylverfyre decides to fade Antlion, and whoever does that, but if they do, they could be up quite a bit. Not only are they up that check, which ends up being a Magma Key, so I hope Sylverfyre end up making their way back to Antlion Cave, but they do have that additional looting from Watery Pass, so they may be behind a check at the moment, but they are up that loot, which could be quite pivotal.
Yeah, this is a big deal, especially for this party finding that early Magma Key. There's just under a 50% chance, it might be somewhere around 40%, that you'll find Sirens in either the Feymarch, Tamra, or Dwarf Castle shops. This particular party, we kind of alluded to, they'll be great in 50 levels. Early Sirens could very much so help get to those 50 levels. As we see a Mylon Z over here on Silverfire's side, we do still have Rydia in the middle, so Sylph Glitch is not going to be active, but I think this is going to be at least some decent damage and healing here. Plus a Fire 2, a couple punches. This Mylon Z shouldn't be here too long, and in fact is gone. So Silverfire making very quick and efficient work of that Mylon Z, while Marten is on his way underground.
You're absolutely right. Just even like 1 or 2 Sirens would turn this party around. We were worried about early game offense just 10 minutes ago, but when you get Quake on that Palom, when you get another 1,000 HP on that Yang, a lot of challenges that were available early game are no longer challenges. We'll figure out what's down here, but Silverfire getting a Baron key from that Fabul defense may be pulled in that direction, and thus their trip underground may be delayed as a result.
Yeah, the potential issue with that Baron key is Syl may fade well, those exits may draw Syl back to Antlion, but that Baron key could lead Syl to going to Baron Inn, Ordeals, Baron Castle, all of the things that are not this Magma key. And any time that Marten has underground, if he's able to find exactly Sirens, and a way to kill a Siren, a yellow dragon for 34,000 XP, is a huge boon. Well, there's one way to do it. An hourglass will freeze them basically for their eternity. And I would expect we'll see maybe 1 or 2 picked up here. It looks like we do get a pickup of 2, which makes a lot of sense, because if you find a set of Sirens or a Siren looting, those hourglasses will get you exactly what you need with this party.
And we're seeing over on Syl's side, they are heading down Antlion. They'll be rewarded with their Magma Key very shortly. Interesting to note, though, they may get through this fight a little quicker. I'm not sure if they have set up their party in such a way that Palom will get the first move. Might be a little difficult to do right now with how quickly Yang will be moving in this situation. But if they could pick up a little bit of time here, potentially. Marten, though, you're right, with those 2 Hourglass 2s, now has a way to kill Gold Dragons if he happens to find them. And will we find them here in Tamra?
Well, we may get a job dwarf check first, though. Will Marten be a man of the people, or will he play like me? We have a job dwarf that is a speech pathologist. That is a fantastic profession right there. Very helpful and great service. So thank you to the job dwarf for doing good things this evening.
Just wish he could hold down a job. I mean, he may have a lot of different jobs. He just may not be very good at them.
That's fair. That may be why he has so many, and maybe why he failed as a farmer. Who knows? Either way, we are now joined by our friends from Free Enterprise, and friends from Free Enterprise too. Welcome on in. Please, no spoilers from your race, or you will get the bonk, but we welcome you in. We are roughly 15 minutes into race number 2 between Marten and Silverfire. Major things of note: Magma Key is behind this gauntlet in Antlion. Silverfire has found a Baron Key from the Fabul defense, and Marten is currently trying to press that Magma Key advantage, but coming up relatively empty in shops so far, not finding the Sirens that he's most certainly looking for to try to really get this party going.
Is finding a number of decent items, however. Not a lot of zonks up down on these locked chests. Did find Hourglass 2s over in Dwarf Castle. Found Bacchus wines down in Tamra, so if he wants to pivot to like a Zerker type strategy, that Bacchus wine will enable that. And is otherwise looting the remainder of the same march. Found that trap chest relatively early, so why not? Maeve, considering that he was a little low in regards to money, bought a tiara over in Tamra, so his coffers are pretty empty right now. Probably looking for anything right now that could lead him to find and fund a Siren purchase should it be down here in the Fey March.
Yeah, and it definitely makes sense with this party. Again, you want to try to get them online any way you can, and looting can help do that. A ninja sword, should an edge show up, can also help do that. A ninja hat will help to get whoever you want going first, possibly getting them going first, which could be nice. But I expect we'll see a fairly full loot, because this is, there's 2 ways to approach this party. Either find Sirens and get levels, or try to buy your way to victory. Things like a tiara help buy your way to victory, because that's, I believe, 2 extra multipliers on that Sylph summon, which is a huge deal this early on.
Yep, and we also find an Asura over on Martin's side, which, I mean, if we don't happen to find a white mage, really is very versatile. Could end up being our white mage, along with the Bacchus wine we found earlier. We could still pivot toward a more Berserker type strat, or just a double Black Mage, double Zerker strat. No Sirens down here in the Fey March, so that avenue is closed to us. We're going to have to deal with this particular flag set without the early grind that both of these runners likely crave.
Yeah, we'll see if there's anything really spicy down here in the Feymarch, anything that those hourglasses can help with. Leviathan Vanilla, that's a fight for much, much later, and some sort of to be determined Sparkle. That Sparkle is, trying to think, almost certainly not doable at this point. Maybe there's some really tricky situations you can set up a plague by putting up a veil, dancing, daggering one of your party members, bringing them back to life, reflecting a count with no fasts, and getting a silk web out there. I mean, that's about as close to a pipe dream as you're going to get, though, to try to pull that off. But it's a pale dim, and that is just objectively not going to happen at this point. So we'll certainly see Marten just leaving out of this Fey March. And we'll come back sometime in the future. Who knows when that will be, if ever, while Sylverfyre is going to take care of some shopping in Aggert. And just to correct myself, the Queen of Summon Monster spot is an objective, so that peak makes, excuse me, a lot of sense on Martin's side, as he will have to fight that Paladin at some point.
Yep, but I think we'll see the standard rowdy from here for Marten. Go hit that Sheila 1 check, or at least get it set up. Head over to Fabul, knock out the Fabul defense, knock out Sheila 1, and then probably clear the remaining of the overworld. We're getting some cheeky checks here, though. A Mute Knife, a second one actually, is nice. A Ninja Star would be nice if we had an edge. If not, I believe at least 2,500 gil, so a decent amount of funding, and that'll probably be all the cheeky checks we'll get on Marten from this point on. Finding a decent amount of money to fund additional purchases should he need them, but one advantage that Marten has from this particular party is that with two Black Mages, with a Yang, these are very low-cost characters to get online. Other than, a few levels, we don't need a whole lot. They can end this game naked if they need to be.
Yeah, and to that point, Marten has already purchased two Poison Claws and a Mute Knife. So he now has Mute Knives for both his mages and has Poison Claws for his Yang. Again, they're not going to do more than hundreds of damage right now, but hundreds is all you need with a party like this at this time. You're just trying to survive the early game. But with that Tiara purchase, with a potential Mute Knife being equipped, that's a lot of extra damage that Rydia is going to be putting out, and a Change Rod in there as well that I had missed. So pretty good stuff all around for the mages early on here.
Yeah, at this point we were worried about, hey, early game offense, where's it going to come from? Now I'm a little worried about early game defense, early game healing. Where is this going to come from? Because we only have so many Cure 2s. Could buy some Cure 3s, I suppose, if you really want to spend the money.
And both runners giving us the Job Dwarf check this evening, so thank you to both runners. But to kind of answer that point about defense, I don't think you normally find it on this flag set as a whole. That's one of the things about a lot of the heavy armor wearers being relegated to some of the more bottom tier considerations, if you will, is that your Sids, your Canes, while they are used, they are not necessarily the highest value characters. And so you end up with a situation where you don't always get to outfit anyone, and you just sell off your heavy armor specifically for money. That is a twin harp. So we have two really awkward key items from our runner's perspective. And this was kind of alluded to at the start of the broadcast, that with a twin harp and with a Baron key, neither of those are required. They are both incredibly long checks. That's not really where our runners want to be. They want to be doing things that are going to progress them through the seed and complete those objectives, not do really long, annoying checks. As great as music is, it's just not where you want to be as a runner.
addition to that, we just don't have the party to do a twin harp right now. That Yang, of course, would be pretty much everything you rely on for this particular twin harp check if you wanted to do it in the next 5 to 10 minutes or so. And without even, I believe neither our runner picked up Bacchus Mind, it would be a bit of a slog because that Filth, that Palom, not doing a whole lot against the majority of bosses that appear in that particular spot due to the heightened magic defense. So I think we'll be seeing that one on the back burner, not just for that reason, but for the reason that you mentioned as well.
Yeah, and I mean, you might even be in a situation where you see a cheeky Dwarf Castle check come in before a Twin Harp check. Just wondering maybe you can get through the first boss if it's free, if it's like a King Queen Evelyn, a Bahamut, something like that. Even a Wyvern, if you can just be faster. But if it's a situation where you're forced to go into Twin Harp with this party, that's not a great place to be, as you've stated.
Let me, of course, I'm kind of rooting for it. Wonder who we're actually going to find, though, at Baron, and that's likely to be Martin's next check, I think. Having that Baron key in hand, having a Sylph-powered Rydia can probably get through the Baron Inn, fill out his party, hit to Baron Castle shortly after. No, actually, looks like we may be getting a Mount Ordeal check instead. Maybe get a Quake on that particular Palom, or maybe a Virus as well.
Yeah, my that was my thought is the virus play because Palom will get virus at level 19, and that would be a huge boon, especially for a potentially rude second spot in Baron Inn. Baron Inn 2 causes more wipes than it reasonably should, just because of how dang hard it punches. So I do like this play from Martin. It gets more HP on Yang. It gets more levels in general on his mages, and the potential of getting virus. I think this is a really smart play just from a safety perspective, because you can only push so far with this team. The counterpoint to that, though, is if there's an edge in Baron, you already have a ninja sword, you have a mute knife, you bleed time anytime you are not actively putting that edge in your party to do damage. So it will really depend on who is there as to whether or not Baron Inn or Ordeals turns out to be the correct play for this seed.
Luckily for Martin, though, the first boss here, DKC, one of the least punchy spots in the game, and even little Rydia here with only 200 HP, able to tank all 3 Dark Wave. They'll be roar with their 3000 XP. I'm not sure if this will push Palom to Virus, but the next spot will if this one does not. Meanwhile, over on Silverfyre side, setting up their Sheila 1, doing a little bit of cheeky looty as well, doing some equipping mid Sylph Cave. I wonder if they're attempting or thinking about maybe doing some kind of trap chest or anything like that, because there were Hourglass 2s available.
This is probably just I picked up a second mute knife, let me get it equipped type play from Syl. That would be my guess, is that is what they're opting for here, as they are continuing to the not so pan bonk where they talk to Sleeping Yang, and we'll head on over to the Sheila 1 turn-in to pick up their Twin Harp, while we see Martin is playing with some dolls up on Mount Ordeals, like just taking a small break from running through the rest of the seed. And we do get our first bit of divergence, major divergence anyway, as we did see Syl do Fabul Defense earlier. But we see Syl heading on into Baron Inn, going to give us a peek, and we do see a Cid with a Bahamut. So that makes that potential cheeky dwarf play a little less appetizing with a freebie off the board. So that's probably out of the cards now. But a nice free boss here at the first spot. We'll see what sort of rudeness is here at the second spot.
Hey, come to Martin's defense real quick. He's not playing with dolls, he's playing with action figures. Thank you very much. And the Asura here at Baron Inn 2 might be a little bit of a challenge. May have to burn a couple Star Veils to get through this, otherwise that life glitch may be a little too difficult to pull off here. This Asura quite punchy in this particular location.
Yeah, this is a very punchy Asura. You're going to look to do maybe some reflect strats as well. Maybe bluff up Palom a little bit. This is one where having Virus would certainly help. So I think that Martin is going to get rewarded for his routing, where Syl is going to get slightly punished for their routing. And that's, again, to no fault of either runners. It's just how this one is going to play out in this particular seed. So yeah, bluffing a couple times, sylphing. The wall is very smart to do to get those kind of secondary Asura strats, if you will, out of the way. And we do see an antlion here for Marten. So no antlion on the moon. I'm a little sad, but that's okay.
A little disappointed, but I'm sure Martin's not too upset finding that darkness crystal of an ordeal, so that is hard required. Sylverfyre will be heading up there relatively soon, and that unlocks at least 2 objectives for Martin with Moss Immune and Ribbon Room. That will be heading up there immediately, unless it's for a character check or maybe a Siren check, which could be Martin's next move.
Yeah, I will say for either runner, I would assume this anyway, and I could be wildly wrong. But I would assume if we see a a Tella show up either at Baron Castle, since we know it can't be a Baron Inn, or on the moon, we are almost certainly going to see a D machine grind with this team.
We didn't see a whole lot of D machine grind or grinding in general on the previous flag set on group stages, but it's been very prevalent here in brackets, and I mean, I'd be here for it. You don't need to wait for a white mage or anything like that. We have found just about every item we need to have ready-made white mages. We found Cure 3. We found an Asura for Rydia. We found Bacchus wines and exits. And of course, if you had that Tella, you wouldn't need exits anyway. So, yeah, I could see either one of our runners taking what we currently have right now, ditching that Sid, for example, picking up a Tella, and doing some D machines.
Well, and speaking of character checks, very well done by Syl navigating through that Asura. Unfortunate that it took all 3 Star Veils, but yeah, if you don't get through it, then you wasted 2 and you probably have to do it again anyway. So very heads up by Syl using all of their resources to get through that fight. Job very well done. Gets a Sid, which is, honestly not what you're looking for. But that package that was picked up could lead to a another character, could lead to a Tella, could lead to an Edge. I would be very interested to see if we get that package check or if we head straight into Baron Castle on Syl's side.
Yeah, who would you take from a pack in this situation? Maybe a Tella, maybe an Edge, I suppose, but that might be about it.
Yeah, with Ninja Mute, I would absolutely take an Edge here. With not having knowledge of the Darkness Crystal yet, I would not take a Tella from the package. But as soon as I found the Darkness Crystal, I'd be very inclined at that point.
I'm a little worried for Syl, though. So they burned all of their Star Veils in that particular fight. It was a difficult fight, and of course they had to do it in order to get through it, but there's still a Wyvern out there. There's still a Golbith out there. Syl is very vulnerable to both of those bosses, should they find them, especially here in Baron Castle.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see an interesting kind of decision point here. Marten sees sirens, but only has enough things to sell to purchase about 8 of them. Now, that's plenty if you're looking to do a grind that doesn't include getting to nuke. But if you are looking to get to nuke, that is not going to do it, even with 10 key items. I do wonder if a Tella shows up here, if there may be some regret on Marten's side, if maybe this was a bit of a hasty purchase. I can definitely see 1 or 2 Sirens being purchased, but I don't know about selling literally everything for 9 right now. I think that might have been done with a bit of, ooh, there's the shiny thing, and I'm certainly guilty of this. I do hope it works out, of course, for Marten, but that to me is a bit of a rash decision.
Well, no Tella, so no punish in this situation. We'll, of course, take that Porum because required 4th character, gotta take her. The question is, do you take this grind right now? And if you do, you don't have an anchor, do you, huh?
Yeah, no anchor. I mean, Porum can be an anchor with 7 agility, where you can just run Yang, double Black Mage, and buy some Bacchus. It's kind of a thrown together, hodgepodge party. I think for sure we're going to see a grind to Quake on Palom and to Blink and Berserk on the newly acquired Porum, excuse me. Those are things I think we will see. but I don't know if we're going to do any more grinding than that. Or in Martin's case, he looks like he is saying, I am not going to grind at all, maybe hoping for a different character. I wonder if he resets when he sees Sid and then just goes and does those sirens now. Looks like that is the case, and he is going to go likely grind a little bit here, make the rest of his fights easier, while Syl is battling this Baigen, which is kind of rude for this party.
I believe this Baigen in this vanilla spot as well. So is this even obligatory? But yeah, a bit of quite rude for this particular party, especially with the amount of mages you have. Looks like Syl is through, and hopefully they don't end up finding something relatively rude on the Baron throne. But as you mentioned, Martin taking one of these eggs here will be quite happy, I'm sure, with the Quake, which will make the remainder of any more eggs he wants to do quicker, and may actually be quite happy finding that Sid over there in Baron Inn. That is a ready-made anchor for him should he decide to drop one of these characters he currently has, and may want to challenge something a little more difficult like that Pale Dim down in Fey March, or maybe Early Moon Dive.
Yeah, absolutely. And just fun fact, don't use lightning spells on the yellow dragons. Even in egg form, they still absorb lit. So yeah, there's your fun fact learning of the day. Yellow dragons, even when not yellow and not dragons, still absorb it.
Sylverfyre, meanwhile, not being punished over here on the Baron throne. Elements relatively simple for Silver to get through. So will be rewarded with, well, we'll figure out who that character is relatively shortly. Could find someone like an Edge and could make their grind a whole lot easier too.
Yeah, this power punch needs to come out yesterday though, because this spot does have pretty high magic attack, and we see that fire 3. Thank goodness Yang has a fantastic health pool here, because that was a little bit scary. That was a little closer probably than Syl wanted it to be, but was able to get through.
Rosa, that's interesting. So a better white mage, most people say, over Porom. I think Porom is quite useful on this particular flag set, simply because she comes with ready-made exit within a couple levels, whereas Porom, or whereas Rosa's exit, a very useful spell locked behind completing Tower of Zot, which, as we've mentioned before, not really something you may want to be inclined to do on this particular seed right here, as it's not an objective. But still, with Atella or with exits for purchase, as both of our runners have found already, Rosa could be the superior pickup here.
Yeah, especially with those exits that Syl did buy. They are in prime position to just carry that Rosa and not have to worry about the Porom. And there is a pink tail. That is a dead key item for our runners, unfortunately. So the seed is not being generous whatsoever with the key items that are showing up. Pinktail not required, Baron Key not required, Package not required, Adamant Rock is required, Spoon not required, Magma Key, you got to get underground somehow. This is very interesting. Obviously, the Darkness Crystal is required, but early on, this is fairly sketchy for our runners as far as finding progression. It means that a lot of these ancillary checks that are no fun, things like Baron Basement, things like the Fey March, things like Twin Harp, are more on the table than you would like them to be.
Yeah, with the lack of progression that we're finding thus far, this may end up being a whole, 28 out of 28, 17 out of 17 seed. Sylverfyre, however, heading over to Mount Ordeal, is going to find their Darkness Crystal at the top and likely be quite happy. Martin showing the power of an early Siren grind, getting through that Asura fight over in Baron 2 without using a single Star Veil. So Martin not vulnerable to a surprise Wyvern, a surprise Golbez, whereas Sylverfyre still needs to find a few Star Veils maybe in a shop or maybe in a little bit of looting in order to have a little bit of insurance should they find that particular fight.
Yeah, and it looks like Martin has said goodbye, Sid. Do not want, while Sylverfyre is heading up Mount Ordeals. I'm curious in Martin's case, are we going to get this Baron play, or is he going to go and get a little frisky with the Twin Harp? It looks like Baron is going to be the option, or at least some shopping. We have a shop full of nothing of any value, and a second shop with nothing of any value. So Baron is pretty barren today, one might say.
Yeah, I would have minded seeing Martin pick up maybe a couple iron rings in that Baron shop, because that Twin Harp, should you want to do it, you do have a little bit of a time save by equipping it to your mages who are difficult to magnetize, along with Yong, who's also difficult to magnetize. But I suppose maybe with the low amount of HP that our characters may have at this particular point, maybe a quick virus from Palom could get you through that initial part of the Dark Elf fight relatively quickly.
Yeah, especially if kamikazes were found. I know that Silverfyre purchased one kamikaze, which can help with Twin Harp, but I don't know if the Iron Rings would also be an assist here. What I do know is that this Baigen is going to be considerably easier for Marten because he can just Quake. And the arms are going to, well, not be arms after the Quake resolves. I will say that for having fewer levels, Syl is doing a great job of keeping pace with Marten, who has those levels now, has that Darkness Crystal, and has made a couple of extra plays, but Silverfyre doing a great job with lower levels of keeping up.
Yeah, absolutely. Silver not too far behind Marten right now, despite not having that Siren grind. Having Virus on Palom here is going to make these dolls a little quicker for Silverfyre than they were for Marten.
Yeah, there's actually a case to be made here where you just let Big Doll come out and you just virus again. I think this Gaia Drum will also do it though, probably push 400 to 600 damage, and the back dolls will no longer be back dolls. Meanwhile, speaking of things that cast Quake, Baigen is already gone on Marten's side.
So entering the end game, we're already in the mid game right now. I can't believe it's been almost 40 minutes in this particular seed, but I'm liking Silverfire's party. Nothing has to change at this particular point if they don't want it to. You have that white mage, you have an anchor in Sid, you have a black mage in Palom, and Val Protection in Yong, who I think is a fantastic melee in this particular flag set. You don't have to change anything. Silverfyre may very well just find those sirens up here on the moon once they find the Darkness Crystal here on Mount Ordeal, and take a grind all the way to endgame levels if they choose.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility. I don't know what Silverfire's predispositions to early grinds are. I know that Marten is a fan of it, where he will get his characters to endgame levels immediately. If that is something that Syl wants to do, it's absolutely on the table here because Yong, Palom, and Rosa are, as you said, three of the better characters endgame, for this particular flag set. Rosa being the preeminent white mage, Palom being the preeminent black mage, and Yong being, in my opinion, the kind of tied with edge level endgame Zerker, has the major advantage of just a crap ton of HP, which is something you can really use sometimes. That Edge does not gain a lot of HP. He oftentimes comes in right around what Rosa has. So, yeah, to your point, this is a very kind of nice cut and dry party for Silverfyre, whereas Marten has some more decisions to make on his decision tree through this seed.
Marten is running out of opportunities for decisions at this particular point. May not have, if you don't do that Tower Ozat, and you're probably not going to sit through that package for Arcane, which we saw earlier, you may be running out of options to flesh your party out. And the sooner you do it, the sooner you can grind, the sooner you'll be happier. And, early grind often is one of these things that we say in the particular community. Make the game as easy as possible, as early as possible. And Marten may be holding out, may have options, but holding out for the option may cost him.
Yeah, Marten's sitting at 8 key items right now. Syl soon will be on 8 key items. And this is one of those awkward kind of routing and decision tree points in a seed where you end up what I call chasing ghosts, where you are so hyper focused on hitting 10 key items that you start doing checks that you bleed not seconds, but minutes by not grinding right away. Yeah, that's a vanilla Odin. Ew, gross. Shout outs to our restreamer Reckless Charlie this evening, who has decided to put a couple of vanilla things in the seed. That is by far the rudest of them so far, as vanilla Odin is no joke. That's like 18 to 20,000 health, super punchy, And those Zantetsucans will absolutely annihilate this party. But we do see Sylverfyre on their way over to Twin Harp, which was picked up from that Sheila 1 check. So Sylverfyre going to be the first of our runners to give music. And at this point, that is probably the check of least resistance. The second least resistant check, probably Dwarf Castle.
And the third probably being Keyless Tower, but who wants to do that right now? And also, shout outs to Chazman, our tracker this evening. We have a bit of divergence between our two runners, but keeping up expertly. But yeah, we're about to get a music check. One of these two checks that mentioned at the top of the broadcast may not have a whole lot of incentive. However, Sylverfyre taking a little bit of a gamble here may find it is the K main check after all. It could hold everything that we want. It could have a hook, for example, and that pigtail suddenly becomes no longer a dead item, but a very key item that gets you an adamant armor that makes the remainder of the seed very, very easy.
Yeah, a hook could be one of those not required, but literally the best thing you could find type item, because a pigtail means that you don't have to do a full grind. It means that you don't have to worry about a lot of things. We do see this kamikaze purchase that Syl made. Picked up one kamikaze, used it to great effect here in the Dark Elf fight, was able to skip the me attack you, fire, ice, lit montage there, if you will. Rabon, this is a part where we're supposed to shush and let the music go, right?
I was told that, and I guess I'll do. So everyone, enjoy the music. All right, I believe based on I don't recognize the song, but I believe Chad said it was Darude Sandstorm, so I'm going with that. But very fortunate to find a couple of mage guards here, Baron guards here. Easy to Hourglass 2, finding an Earth Crystal. So here's that other check we weren't too interested in doing, but give Sylverfyre a few more options to flesh out their party as well as a treasury raid, which we may still get at 45 minutes in.
Yeah, also a couple of major developments. One, Tella has been spotted, so that's a thing. A little bit later than I think our runners would have wanted Tella to show up. Now it's incredibly awkward to want to do a D machine sitting on 8, possibly 9 key items coming up. Sylverfyre now on 9 key items, going to head and do this Earth Crystal, which I believe is also vanilla, I think. I haven't played the vanilla game but once, but I think that Earth Crystal is vanilla from Twin Harp, right? Or no?
It's been about 30 years, but I believe you're correct.
Okay. Something forgot to hit the button. There's the obligatory thing.
Yeah, a bit of vanilla this seed. We're going to get a raid this treasury. Let's see what we get out of this particular run. Ooh, cursed ring.
Looks like we get an inventory boss out of 10 so far. The life staff is super nice. The cursed ring super nice. So those are two really good hits, to be completely honest. A little bit surprised to see the Asura summon go away on Syl's side, but not the worst thing in the world. Uh, in the rest of this treasury, we've seen a Bacchus wine, a tiara, a Siren in there, another tiara. So, all right stuff. But the cursed ring and the life staff probably the two best pickups in my eyes.
Yeah, cursed ring, life staff, a strength ring for our Yang as well, and a few light swords to dart if we happen to find an edge up here on the Tower of Azat. Could enable quite a bit for Silverfire's party, but that's pretty good, I think. Maybe like a 7 out of 10 for a T-Pro treasury. What do you think?
I think it would have been a whole lot better with a Stardust Rod, but the cursed ring alone gives so much flexibility to our runners, especially in Martin's case. If he makes that play for the Twin Harp sooner than later, that cursed ring, based on the party composition discussion that we kind of had, the cursed ring will do him a lot more favors than it will Syl. So we shall see. A lot remains to be determined on this seed. Um, yeah, but that cursed ring could play into Martin's hands a little bit more than Syl's based on party comp.
Yep, with that said, Silverfire's party already has an anchor. Sid doesn't get too quick, being an old man and all that, but for the most part, Martin would indeed benefit very greatly from a curse ring, would be able to do, 15 Siren than a Dream, or 30 Siren than a Dream if he doesn't happen to find two more key items. And that curse ring will give him a ready-made anchor either in Rydia or in Palom. But no, he's been fading that Twin Harp and will likely fade that Treasury because I think by the time Martin does do that Twin Harp, it's going to be past the hour mark. Maybe you just don't do the Treasury at that point.
Yeah, and this kind of plays into that fear of, chasing ghosts for 10 key items. That you have something like the Twin Harp, which is a relatively easy check, and that's more vanilla, I believe, with Dr. Luge on the top of the tower. No Thunderclaw is a little bit awkward here. But yeah, that's possibly, well, no, we've seen Elements. That's also a vanilla Ruby. So Charlie, please. You are doing your best Zoe Vanillion and Dathis impression here, friend. That's enough vanilla for me for one day.
Yeah, Dr. Luke, it's not going to be a whole lot of fun here. Not too challenging, of course, for the party that Martin has, but it'll be a little bit of time sink, unfortunately. Silverfire, meanwhile, finding these D-Lunars here in Zot 1, showing quite a bit of game knowledge as well. Picked up those Cure 3s, doesn't have too much of a use for those Cure 3s anymore with a Rosa in tow, so throwing Cure 3s out as items to do damage to these D-Lunars, get through the fight a little faster, I'm here for it. I'm a fan of it.
Yeah, very heads up by Syl, showing just really smart gameplay all around. Again, doesn't have the levels that Martin has, and may at this point still be ahead even without those levels. And by the time Syl gets to 10 key items, may be able to make up a ton of that perceived disadvantage that Martin may have gained early, just by demonstrating very good technique with all of these different fights.
Yeah, I believe Syl hasn't been up to the moon yet, despite having that darkness crystal, so it doesn't know that sirens are available. I'm not sure if they would have changed their course of action should they have known sirens are available, but when they do find them, they'll be like, hey, I've got 10 key items if Zod happens to provide something here. I am happy to go, do 15 sirens in a dream, or 14 sirens, or whatever, and take this party to endgame levels, or just do Zerkers, because hey, there's an edge.
Yeah, there is a case to be made based on the bosses that have been seen that you replace Palom actually with Edge here, having a ninja sword and a mute knife. Um, I could definitely see the Zerker option here go Rosa, Yang, Edge, and Sid Anchor. I don't hate that play at all if Syl ends up going that way. You also have the option, if you want, of going with with, well, any number of party compositions here. Also a little awkward that Death and Lovers joined at the same time. I guess the tarot cards are doing funny things, but we actually see, was that Yang being ditched?
I mean, not my boy Yang. Come on.
Yeah, that's interesting. That means that still probably looking to go the direction of Palom, Rosa, Edge, keeping a safety Zerker and just going double mage here. Again, makes sense. Like it's a fairly safe play. I think I'm still a fan of having Yang and that extra HP, but Full Moon Ninja or Mute Ninja are, I mean, that's a very strong edge right now. And maybe Syl opts not to grind as a result, where that Yang would not really benefit greatly. But meanwhile, Marten did pick up a Sand Ruby from the top of Tower. So Keyless Tower paying out for Marten. He is now on 9 key items and dipping down into Sylph Cave. Looks like he's weakening his party. This tells me that the Twin Harp is Marten's next step.
Yep, so Marten will be up that Sand Ruby, which is required, and may check, well, actually, will likely not check that prior to doing Twin Harp, because that would give you a full heal prior to doing the Twin Harp, and it looks like Marten's going to want to just toss out a quick virus or something like that. Oh, no, he's going to check that Sand Ruby after all. But going back to your point about dropping the Yang, I agree. I would probably keep the Yang in this situation. I think at this point, the Sid may be dead weight, especially with that Cursed Ring. That Palom could easily be your anchor for the remainder of the seed.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And to your point earlier about picking up the Sand Ruby, one of the things that a lot of folks forget about the Sand Ruby turn-in is you get a free heal from it. So all of that work that Marten did just weakening his party is now going to be undone. So I can tell you on like a watch back or a playback of this, he's going to be not thrilled. If he didn't already know this, he's about to learn it when he gets into the Twin Harp cutscene and sees his characters fully healed. He's going to be like, wait, what's going on? Why? How? And will be very perplexed. But does get that objective number 3 turned in. So at the 53-minute mark, we do have our first objective.
And our second objective will be following very shortly, because Sylverfyre rewarded with a pan from completing Tower of Zot. So Zot is required, meaning this entire Twin Harp chain, hard required for both of our runners. That'll be objective number 1 for Sylverfyre very shortly. That's also, very pivotally, 10 key items for Sylverfyre. That grind is unlocked if they're interested right now.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things for Syl is having done all this again with a perceived power disadvantage, actually getting to the 10 key items first. Should Syl choose to do Dwarf Castle, can pick up a Tella instead of Sid and do a grind, D-Machine grind, or on the way up to the Moon could go ahead and just pick up some Sirens and grind that way. So still a lot to be decided on here. But I think that I actually like Syl's position slightly better than Marten's here right now. But a lot remains to be seen of this seed.
Absolutely. This could go in either direction right now. Marten, I think, which I think may be a little uncharacteristic for Marten, being a bit of a gambler as he is, took a more conservative route by doing that early grind with Sirens. Syl, however, being a little more risky, still hasn't done this Dwarf Castle check, which I don't believe will pan out for Sylverfyre. I don't believe there was anything of significant value here, if I remember.
Ninja shirt. Which actually is good for Syl.
That's true. We do have a black belt for that edge right now, but Ninja Shirt does make him a little more tanky, but could give Marten a little bit of time here to catch up by doing what it will end up being mostly an empty check.
This was, there's a second full moon. Okay. I was curious. I saw Syl sell that's a 10 stack of hourglasses. That tells me we might be looking at LST4 random encounters, or random encounters somewhere. But that's a huge stack of hourglasses to be picked up.
Yep. Could be worried potentially about actually, was it? No, Silverfyre had already seen the All Gauntlet in Antlion
Yes.
Cave, but not worried about that up on the moon. May just be looking for sirens then, or if they don't find sirens down here and may not want to check the moon beforehand, may steal some sirens from the tower.
Definitely could. But in the meanwhile, we will speculate on that after this break sponsored by Edward. Enjoy the music again, y'all.
And Marten is through. We get our Earth Crystal over here on his side, and he'll likely be heading up the tower of that shortly after because it routes very nicely. Meanwhile, Silverfyre heading down Luca, finding a rat tail. So we got to walk that out. Not an objective, but could be Schrodinger's objective. We don't know what's behind that. But Silverfyre is going to have to deal with this boss here in the cave without having done a grind. Could be a little bit difficult.
Yeah, there's a couple of really rude things that are on the table. This is actually a little bit sketchy. Uh, Kainatsu's going to do waves that are 4 to 6% of the current health. Sid will survive this. Edge probably survives this. Rosa and Palom are not surviving this. Yeah, we shall see what becomes of this, but this is not the best situation for Syl. Hopefully, they are able to get through this.
Not throwing out a Thor Rage or trying to nerf this at all, or, break out of the wave cycle. So if this hits for too much damage, and it is very, very close, exactly as you mentioned, taking a reset will, of course, want to do this fight, but we'll have to approach it in a different manner.
That's interesting. I don't know that a reset was necessary there. I think Sid could have cured Edge through that. It would have been slow, but I think that was still doable with the Zerked up Edge there. A rough fight, though, regardless.
Taking a reset is not something you want to do, but still lowering the battle speed will likely get through it the second time around. But if Marten's not caught off guard, that could be a little bit of a time game for Marten when he eventually comes down here to this Luca cave himself.
Yeah, one of the things, this is where that grind, intentional or not, will come into play, is that by just simply having those extra levels, Marten will not be vulnerable to a wipe here because the HP totals on his party will just be vastly superior. So I don't think Syl will have problems getting through this fight. I think it's just simply a matter of how many people will be alive to see it. And it looks like we are opting for Quake here. I don't know that Quake is going to fire. Might have needed Virus there. I'm curious to see the timing on this. But I think this is likely to be a situation where we're looking at just Edge and Sid living, although that Thor Rage does go off immediately and may be able to nerf that wave. Nope, timing was a little off. So wave does more than Edge's HP. And this is, again, where the issue is just not having the health. to get through this without nerfing that first wave.
Yeah, as you mentioned, first of all, I want to say happy hour mark. But second of all, I want to mention that, yeah, you're right. That first round may have been Phil's best chance because this Rosa, this Palom, not surviving the wave, may not have the agility set up to take down the wave in time unless, I'm not sure if that curse ring is on Sid or not. Oh, looks like they heard me because here comes the curse ring.
Yeah, the curse ring definitely makes a lot of sense. I think that this will help still greatly to get the timing down on everything, making sure that everyone is RA1, and just having the turn parity that really helps in this sort of fight. So now the Thor Rage can be queued, and this will be perfect because you actually want to fire it before the water is gathered, or at least before Edge's swing happens. So Edge will attack once, the Thor Rage will go, Edge will attack again, and then the wave would fire. But in this case, the wave is not going to fire. So well done by Syl adapting to that with the Cursed Ring.
Yeah, well done by Phil indeed. This fight is pretty much free at this point, assuming that... No, this is one of the weaker melee spots. Very high magic, relatively low melee, so Syl is going to be through this fight. Well done by them. But taking those two lives may have given Marten a little bit of breathing room because it looked like Marten was falling behind up to this point.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a catch-up mechanic for Marten, and we do see a pickup of the Edge on Marten's side as well. So going to, looks like, go with that Ninja Mute as well. Has a little bit of gear for this Edge, and we shall see. I know in Marten's case, he's again a big fan of, oh, I have my 10 key items, I'm going to grind now. So we'll see if that happens here. But looks like Syl is making good progression on this turtle and should be through this sooner than later as well, chunking pretty good portions of damage out.
Yep, has done enough damage by this point that I don't believe that even in their weakened state that Edge or Sid is in any danger of dying to a wave, which will not be nerfed. And yeah, hiding inside the shell, so we are through this particular situation. Hopefully, though, that this rat tail, which we can't turn in yet, will end up being worth the trouble that Sylverfyre has gone through for it.
Yeah, it will hopefully pay out in some meaningful fashion. What's interesting of note is that we don't have that hook, so we can't necessarily turn that rat tail in. So ultimately, we hope from a runner parity standpoint that the hook shows up somewhere. The rat tail gates either the tower key or the legend sword, as those are both required. But yeah, this could be an adventure that Syl goes on that is not required, but we hope for their sake it is.
So let's see. The difference between our two runners right now that Marten's completed Thought and Sylverfyre has completed the Sealed Cave, is that Sylverfyre is up a Sealed Cave completion and up a Pan turn-in. Actually, has only bonked, hasn't turned in Sheila 2, so that could be pivotal. Marten, however, is up, I believe, a Dwarf Castle and up a Top of Tower. So we have divergence between our two runners, but I think for the most part they're running pretty even to one another right now.
Yeah, I will say I do like this play that's coming up from Marten. Has his Sirens in tow already, making sure that everything else he fights, or as much of everything else that he fights, can be done as quickly as possible. I think that's pretty heads up. Cursed Ring Virus with Iridia, probably not going to do it here. So going to see the hatch, which is a little awkward. But we'll be able to get through this and get 68,000 XP for his party. 7 times of doing that, and he's going to be pushing about 500,000 extra XP on his party. It won't be enough for Nuke, which is a little awkward, but it certainly will be enough for Rosa and Edge to facilitate a moon dive to get everyone to Nuke, while Syl is heading back to the overworld, and I believe only has, Baron Basement, the Fame Arch, and the Moon remaining, correct? Or also, I guess, has Keyless Tower and Dwarf, as you stated.
That, and I believe hasn't turned in Sheila 2 yet. Did the pan bonk, didn't find anything from the Sylph Cave turn in, but gotta turn that pan in eventually. That is an objective. Sil will be heading up there eventually, I'm sure, but hopefully remember to do so before heading up to the moon, because there could be a chaining key item up there that leads Sil in a different direction.
That is true. You did mention earlier about fading Antlion, who would do that, fading the pan bonk, excuse me, turning in the pan, who would do that. These are things that happen to any runner and can happen when you have race brain going on. So hopefully for Sil, that pan gets turned in, but it's probably not an end of the world type situation, unless, exactly like the hook and the tower key are up on the moon and the legend sword is behind the pan directly.
Exactly. A hook behind that Sheila 2 would be pivotal as well, because we got that pink tail, we got that rat tail, we want to turn them in. That moon is could be difficult, especially without a grind, as Sil has not done one yet. An adamant, however, would really turn that around, and it looks like we're going to get that pan check relatively soon. Or no, looks like we may actually be getting an Odin throne.
So, and this is interesting because Sylverfyre did not peek the Baron basement as well, so does not know that an Odin is there, whereas Marten does know that Odin is there. So if he is committed to the Earth play and doing everything that he can on the blue planet, that could also be a reason to start grinding now, is to make sure that he's prepared for the Odin and Baron basement. Meanwhile, Sil doing some shopping, getting closer to turning that pan in, check by check through shops here. What do we reckon that Sil's looking for? Oh, it's those star veils probably that were used on Asura. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I'm glad that Sylverfyre remembered, because there was a nasty wyvern, a nasty Golbeth up there on the moon. Sylverfyre would have been dead in the water for the most part. But with those 3 star veils, everything is back to normal. We are back to the point where we have that insurance against the bosses, and we won't be stonewalled by either one of them.
And there is the tracker check saying, oh, I have a pan. It's an objective. I should do this. And Sylverfyre does go through and is going to turn in that pan and get objective number 1 on the board, which will give both of our runners 1 objective on the board. In just over an hour for runners of this caliber, that is a wildly low amount. So very well rolled by our restreamer this evening, Reckless Charlie. And thank you to Chazman for pushing the buttons when available to do so. Lots of key items to light up. Very few objectives, but job well done. And to our runners, of course, as well. Putting on a heck of a show. I honestly, at this point, still don't know who's ahead or behind or in what situation our runners find themselves in. I think I still like Sil's position slightly better, but Marten has the levels, and that's a freight train named Marten Broadcloak that Sil needs to get through these checks fairly efficiently, and maybe we'll see some of those gold dragons being done. But I would also like to shout out my co-commentator this evening, Rybon, doing a great job of keeping me in line, not drinking too much of that extra special trash can juice.
I mean, it's Friday night. We both are having a little bit of Bacchus wine, I'm sure. But of course, thank you, Possum, for everything in regards to keeping me in line as well. Because, it's Free Enterprise After Dark. We're both having a little bit of trouble, paying attention. But, of course, we're seeing Marten down in the Fey March now. We may be getting these Fey March bosses taken care of, which is an interesting play. Does have the levels to do so compared to Sylverfyre, who will likely be finding these Sirens and will be considering a grind in the near term. Wonder if there's anything down here that could really swing the race in Marten's direction.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing would be a hook. Again, that would be a situation of, hey, here's an adamant armor. It is also a required Queen of Summoned Monsters, so by Sylverfyre going to the moon, this opens the door for the Feymarch to have not just a required boss, but a required key item. And so it could become a little bit dangerous if there's lots of value in the Feymarch and not just, the boss down here. But Marten certainly has the levels to take on the Leviathan as well. We'll be able to use Lightning 3 to get through that pretty easily. Maybe throw a Leviathan with Rydia and just Zerk up Edge, and we'll be through both of these fights pretty quickly.
Meanwhile, we get to hear Palom sing us a song of his people. Do, 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 do.
Yeah, that song, it's got a bit of a slower beat to it than I would like personally, but, you know, I'll let it pass.
One additional advantage from doing these Feymarch checks, a little more XP. I believe we don't get a ton from the Feymarch, unfortunately, only about 40k from this Palom spot, but we don't need much more for nuke on that Palom right there. I believe we're only looking at about maybe like 5 more levels. Hit level 52 for that nuke. That Rydia, however, will take a little bit longer.
Yeah, Rydia will have nuke by the time we get to next seed. And if there's a race 3 between these two runners, Rydia will have nuke sometime during the middle of that seed based on her. We'll be nice and call it atrocious XP curve. But it looks like Syl is putting on a mute knife. I think we are going to get Warlocks from Sylverfyre here coming up on LST4. Has Hourglasses, has Sirens. It would make a lot of sense. And we do see Marten clamping down on that Palom, getting an Assassin Dagger and heading straight into Leviathan as well.
And completing objective 4 in the meantime, so advantage Marten Broadcloak right here. 2 objectives to 1. Makes you a little difference here, but Sylverfyre doing this this Warlock grind, as you mentioned, it's one of these grinds we don't see very often, whether it was on group stages or bracket flags. I'm a fan of it simply because it gives quite a bit more XP and it's life glitchable compared to the yellow dragons we saw back down there in the underworld that Marten did, but a little more dangerous at the same time too. May need to throw out maybe a few hourglasses, Sylverfyre having 10 of them in order to make this a little safer.
And I think with this fight, if you life glitch both Warlocks on 10 key items, I want to say you get like 173,000 XP. Unfortunately, this Edge is grooving and not going to be able to get all of those. But this should still put out, 120,000, 130,000 XP here. So it's going to be a good amount. Yeah, 138,400 still. And much safer, honestly, than having to deal with gold dragons without having weak. And quite frankly, the gold dragons have actual defense, whereas Edge has a mute knife and says, haha, haha, yeah, goodbye Warlocks.
Now that experience advantage that Marten had, pretty much
Ooh.
going away. But hey, that tower key, that's objective 7.
Yeah, so this is scary for Sylverfyre because this means that the Feymarch and Keyless Tower are effectively required. I don't think you're going to see Sylverfyre do these checks until the moon is done, which means Marten is going to get to turn in the pan, going to get to do the super cannon room, going to do his objectives on the moon, and as soon as that legend sword turns up, wherever it turns up from, Marten's in go mode at that point. This is actually really scary now for Sylverfyre because Earth has the value. Earth and Feymarch have the value.
That's an excellent point. Marten being 1 key item away from go mode right now. That legend sword, if that happens to come from the tower key, we could see a very, very quick finish on Marten's side. And yeah, Sylverfyre has no idea, of course, because being on a 15-minute delay, not watching the actual stream like we are. But us up here in the booth, yeah, this is a very tenuous position for Sylverfyre right now. Hopefully, that for their sake, that legend sword is buried up there on the moon, and they'll find it and abandon ship shortly after.
Yeah, now I think in Marten's situation that if the legend sword does not pop out of the super cannon room here, you're almost certainly going to well, maybe I say almost certainly, maybe not though. I do wonder if Marten peeks the Luca cave and says, well, what if literally everything is on the Earth except for my lunar objectives? I'm very curious to see how Marten routes this and if Luca is involved in his plans.
An interesting call because on one hand, you have the population here in the Free Enterprise who say, do your objectives, dirty double, dirty double. There could be a Legend Sword waiting behind one of those 2 moon objectives, 3 checks at the Mothmean Altar, and 2 at the Ribbon Room combined. That could have what you're looking for, but you're right. If you do peek down that Luca Cave, you are going to be walking that rat tail out because what if?
Yeah, and this might also be one of the very rare situations where even if you peek that Luca Cave and it comes back with a rat tail, you could conceivably reset out of the rat tail, knowing that you're just 1 key item away from go mode, and then just head to the moon. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities. I think it would be different and against conventional wisdom. But doing Luca and at least diving it to know what's there, that's an interesting play, even if you reset out of a potential chaining key item. But meanwhile, that was just a Plague chilling in the super cannon room. Yeah, Plague will be there for a while because Marten, with 1 hit, was easily through. So we'll see. This all could be, a completely moot point if the Legend Sword is here.
That's objective 7 done for Marten Broadcloak. 3 objectives complete to Silverfire's 1. And yeah, this is a very, very key position right here. If we do happen to find a Legend Sword coming out of this tower, Marten had jumped out to a gigantic, almost insurmountable lead.
Yeah, and chat is kind of pointing, some things out here that Legend kind of needs to be behind Rat Tail. And Apple there is very good for us from a viewing perspective. It's bad for Marten as, far as a runner perspective. But it's great for us from a viewing and commentary perspective that we're going to get more free enterprise this way. Had that been a Legend Sword, I think to your point, we could have put a nail in this one. And I'm glad that we don't get to do that. Because I like watching these races.
Yep, I am a big fan of Game 3. As much as I like both of these runners, and in the commentator, I am not allowed to have, or I'm not going to have rooting for one over the other, but I am rooting for Game 3 in either way just because I want to see more free enterprise. So, good thing that wasn't a Legend Sword. And for Silverfire's point, hopefully there is a hookup here, and behind that rat tail is that Legend Sword, because right now Marten has 6 objectives open to him.
Yeah. Yeah, if we see a Legend Sword come out of either the Ribbon Room or the Massa Altars, that's still bad news for Silverfyre, because again, Marten, now having completed Objective 1, is done with Objectives 1, 3, 4, and 7, has access to Objectives 5 and 6. So the sooner the Legend Sword shows up, the worse Silverfyre is, the better Marten is.
Silverfyre now knocking out the rooms up here that are required on the moon. But yeah, to your point, you're absolutely correct that if this Legend Sword is here behind the Ribbon Room or behind the Mothmean Altar, Silverfyre, not having found that tower key, not having found that Sand Ruby, will likely full clear the moon anyway, which could be wasted time. Marten, however, happens to find, say a Legend Sword anywhere up here on the moon, is going to abandon ship immediately, use that path, and finish up the siege. So we do need a particular situation for that Legend Sword to be hidden in order for Silverfyre to have a little bit of opportunity to catch up.
Absolutely. And we see Marten making use of the spoon here, saying, well, if this is my Legend Sword, the game is effectively over. I have everything I need. If it's not, I can probably reset out of this. And it being a Gungnir Spear means that fight went by incredibly quickly, 10,000 damage in a Lit 3. Boom, Odin down, resets out. Very efficiently taken by Marten. And I think we are going to get the Luca dive here from Marten, leaving no stone unturned on the Earth. And, it's paid out for him to this point. So he is going to dive, has not saved. So I wonder if he's going to turn the key in and then walk out and save, or if he's just going to dive this flat out. That will be an interesting point. Or he may actually just say, I can reset back up to Baron, save the flight time, and just head right up to the moon afterwards.
That's very efficient management for Martin. I don't think he's going to reset out after he finds this. Oh, Martin, man, the people doing their rope of shame, checking the chest anyway. But yeah, once he finds his rat tail, I think he's going to commit to walking it out. And to Martin's credit, and to your point that you said earlier, this earlier grind that Martin has done prior to Luca Cave is going to benefit him. I think he's at no risk whatsoever from this Kenado down here. So we'll not have to deal with a couple of wipes. Meanwhile, we find that hook down there behind the ribbon room. So Silverfyre, now equipped to the hook, done with objective number 6, could abandon ship and check that rat tail that they currently have. Martin, meanwhile, also not even saving on the way down, doesn't know that this could be a wyvern, for example, and trusting that his ability to run buffer and maybe get a star bale out will be sufficient. A little bit of a risky play from Martin's side, though.
Well, he may prep and go to like BS3 or 5 or something, um, and kind of go from there and just kind of hedge. But yep, there he goes, and drops it to battle speed 3 to ensure that if it is something nasty, he can go ahead and get through it. Meanwhile, speaking of things that aren't nasty, that's a water hag. That's a nice freebie for Syl up on the moon. And Syl is going to need every freebie that they can find, because Syl's path through this seed right now involves clearing the moon in its entirety. So what Syl needs to have happen here is for basically one of their last 2 checks, like a Murasame or a Value Cave, to have the Legend Sword, then head to Feymarch, and then go ahead and get everything else taken care of. It just remains to be seen, can Syl hold a potential lead on checks while making up the objectives, and then can Martin potentially get through the moon fast enough to cut into whatever moon lead that Syl has. I think at this point, because of the routing and how the seed is played out with the key item distribution, Martin is ahead. But I think that depending on where this Legend Sword is, if it's on one of the top 2 moon spots, I think this is still a race. But the Legend Sword at this point has to be either on one of those top 2 moon spots, or I think at the Rat Tail could do it as well.
I agree with all that, and I would say that as well. One thing that's still, oh, hey, Pogo Pogo, but very vanilla again. Come on, Charlie. Change this a little bit, please. This is the randomizer. But to your point earlier as well, Silverfyre has faded that Dwarf Castle. I think that's a very, very important thing that they need to continue doing. They need to prioritize that Feymarch where the tower key is, where your objective is, over that Dwarf Castle if they want to have a better opportunity of catching up, because Martin has full cleared this earth. Silverfyre has not done that Barren Basement, have not done that Dwarf Castle. That is advantages for them right now, and they can't afford to give them up right now.
Yeah, that's definitely true that Syl has made the fades that they have needed to make to this point. Now, on Martin's side, we do see the warp out of Sealed Cave, so did hold on to the Rat Tail, did not reset out of it, which I know would have been a very controversial and unusual choice should he have decided to reset out of that. So not terribly surprising. Um, but yeah, on his way now, I believe with nothing left to do but the moon. While Silverfyre is going through the Sogo Pogo, making great use of one of those veils that they purchased, and reflecting some spells to contribute in here with the Zerk damage. And I think this next nuke is going to do it, while a miss from Edge. Did we get a reflected blink out? I must have missed that, but there had to have been a reflected blink.
That's my best guess. I don't think Edge misses at this particular level on this particular location, but regardless, that is a dead Ogo Pogo. That is objective number 5 completed for Silverfyre, and that is a Silent Staff, not our Legend Sword. Good news for Silverfyre, because they need that Legend Sword to be someplace else.
Yes, Silverfyre needs that to be buried. I think from Syl, the next check we're going to see is the Crystal Sword Altar, and then the decision trees really come into play full force. Does Syl full clear the moon? Do they go ahead and turn in the Rat Tail? what is the routing that Syl takes from here? Because technically speaking, Sylverfyre has fewer checks that they need to do to complete the seed at this point, based on our knowledge of where the Legend Sword isn't. Marten has a clearer path to victory at this point, but I still don't think this one can be called yet. I think this is still a very close race. Again, I think on average Marten is going to win this, but you never know. Rando is exactly that.
I agree. Marten probably had a little bit of advantage right now, but you're right. Sylverfyre has to get through this Val up here, Crystal Sword Altar, but could abandon ship if everything is behind that rat tail. That Legend Sword is behind that rat tail, and Syl makes the right plays, heads down to Feymarge, turns in that rat tail. They could be finding themselves in Zeromus quicker than Marten Broadcloak, who may not want to abandon that moon after and check that hook. It takes a little bit of omnipotent routing for Sylverfyre to get back into this, and a little bit of luck as well with that rat tail having everything, that Legend Sword. But no, this race is still anybody's to win.
Yeah, we do see something interesting here. This is going to be a slow fight for both of our runners. Val here, the magic defense is perfect. The physical evade is enough. The big issue here, and maybe this is where Marten's love for darting the spoon comes into play, where you can cut 40% of this spot's HP out immediately by just darting that spoon and then zerking edge with a Rosa. And I do wonder if those extra 5 attacks that are going to come out from edge, which is going to result, honestly, in probably a minute to a minute and a half of time, if that is something that Marten may pick up as an advantage again a little bit on time here.
Could be. I wonder if Marten as well, having that rat tail, he may save scum shortly after he completes his 2 altars up here with that hook that he finds here in the ribbon room. I wouldn't necessarily put it past him as one of these K main checks that remain. I think there's actually none left on Marten's side. And with the way that key items are distributed, there's more likely to be a key item locked behind a K main check, like the rat tail, than there is up here on the moon or behind a K summon spot. So if there is actually maybe not a Legend Sword behind that rat tail, that could actually push Marten in the wrong direction if he decides to make that gamble.
Yeah, I would normally agree with that assessment. However, the averages would point to the moon having somewhere between 3 and 4 key items. We have seen a ton of fill already from K main spots. I think in this case, I would be chasing the moon in Marten's shoes before I would chase the rat tail, just simply based on the expected outcome from a full moon clear. I would at least want to be looking at, the required altars and probably the white spear, and then maybe, save scum the hook with the rat tail. I don't know about doing it any sooner than that, though. I just think you set yourself up for a lot of unnecessary potential flight. And I don't really think at this point the adamant armor is all that beneficial for the party. This is a pretty stout team on both sides as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. The Pinktail has lost its luster or its value at this particular location. We're approaching 90 minutes into the seed, and I mean, you get something nice like a Crystal Sword, which we're not going to, find very nice in this particular flag set, but a high tier, game-changing item. You want that, you're going to prioritize that or want that at like the 10, 20, 30-minute mark, not at the 90-minute mark where you maybe only have like 4 or 5 fights left in the particular game. So you're right, we may not actually see a cheeky rat tail check or anything like that from Marten's side.
Yeah, and on Syl's side, I think again we're just committed to the clearing of the moon in full. So this makes a lot of sense. Where Syl is still looking for, multiple key items, looking for the Legend Sword, the Sand Ruby, and the Tower Key. So this all makes a ton of sense from Syl's perspective. Gross. That's an Evil Wall. So we have Ogopogo, we have Evil Wall, we have Valvalis. Notably, though, we still have not seen Golbez or Wyvern.
Well, with our luck, unfortunately, they'll be in waterfall and the Demon's Cave this particular season. Or maybe up on the Giant, and we'll never see them, unfortunately. We're running out of checks, and outside of maybe like Cave Value, I think we've pretty much seen just about everything available to us.
Yeah, Giant, Waterfall, Miss Cave, and Cave Bahamut are the only things we don't know at this point.
And one other note from Marten clearing his ribbon room, he got through that fight kind of by the skin on his teeth, skin on his nose. So only that Edge and only that Palom, I believe, were surviving at the end of that fight. So they were the only one that got experience. This Rydia, unfortunately, may not make it to nuke level, so that may slow down his Z fight a little bit. And another Womp over here on Sylverfyre's side. Where is that Legend Sword? We're down to like 2 locations at this point, either behind that Rat Tail or behind Cave Value.
Yeah, I think again for Sylverfyre, Cave Value would be the best case scenario. And then just having to basically go Feymarch first, get the tower key, do both parts of tower, and then be in go mode. But Marten is going to be 2.5 checks behind roughly, where Syl is going to have 3 checks remaining. He is making his way through this moon slightly more efficiently, even if he's not getting full XP. He's still getting through this slightly more efficiently, and I do wonder at this point if we will see a walk over or a save and then a scum. What we're going to see here on that Rat Tail. Looks like we're getting some healing, we're getting some saving, and at least going to be taking this White Spear altar before going anywhere. And that is just a Dark Elf in Value Cave. So again, Golbez and Wyvern hiding. The rare occasion where Sylverfyre could have gone to the moon with 0 Star Veils and been A-okay. Who'da thunk it?
One of those gambles you don't want to take. Sylverfyre did not take it, and well, yeah. Who knew that this moon was growth, but not growth for the 2 bosses that we normally think of when it comes to growth bosses. And I agree, Marten getting through this moon a little more efficiently, came here with a little more of a grind, didn't have to do those warlocks, for example, had ready-made levels from the eggs. Should be through the, as you mentioned, 3 moon altars behind on this White Spear altar, which Marten is just finishing up, behind on Murasame and Crystal Sword as well. But closing relatively quickly, being quite efficient with his check. Sylverfyre is going to have to generally hope that there is something here and that they prioritize that Feymarch, which I think had a pretty decent chance of happening with objective number 4 still lingering for Sylverfyre. May head down there relatively shortly after heading down back to the Earth.
Yeah, now one slightly awkward thing here that we're seeing, Edge going down there makes this a little bit longer fight. But still very wisely using an Hourglass there. On Dark Elf, the second form of the fight does not have the boss bit, so Hourglass is to stop it, Weeks to drop the HP down to somewhere between 1 and 9, and bops it with Sid, Poison Axe for the win, and Syl is rewarded with the Legend Sword, and that is exactly what Syl needed. This was the line that Syl had on getting back into this race. So it had to be Legend Sword here, and it has to be the Feymarch next after this. So this is not over yet. Sylverfyre is likely going, as you said, to go back to the Feymarch after this, because the logical check is to do the Queen of Summon Monster spot as your next objective. So we may still see the Rat Tail and Pinktail turn in from Sylverfyre, which is totally fine. And then we'll get through that Feymarch, both halves of it, go to the tower, do both halves of the tower, and I think we still may have a race on our hands here.
We still have a race, especially if Marten decides to fade, Cave Value, decides to fade top of LST by fading that Murasame altar and checks that higher percentage K main check through the save scum that particular Rat Tail. That could buy Sylverfyre the time they need in order to get through the Feymarch, get through the tower check, which Of course, those being 4 checks takes time.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do see Syl here going and picking up that hoverboat. Uh, Makes a lot of sense. Again, turning in this rat tail, turning in this pigtail. I do wonder if Syl says, I don't even care about this adamant armor, turns in the rat tail and just resets straight back, and then flies underground. That would be very aggressive to pass up an adamant armor. Um, I personally, I think would take that pigtail. So seeing the pigtail get turned in first makes to me a lot of sense here. Adamant armor is probably worth 20 seconds in the grand scheme of things. So I do like this. And the rat tail turns into an elixir. So that's not terrible. Elixir could be very helpful in the Zeromus fight or to just heal up some HP and MP in general.
One thing I do want to note, this Fey March is going to be quicker for Silverfyre than it was for Marten, simply due to coming back to Earth with Nuke on that Palom, having a ton of levels on all of their characters. Just has to continue to fade everything in regards to Dwarf Castle, continue to fade that barren basement throne. Ignore the siren call of that K main check behind Dwarf Castle because it is going to lead you astray.
Yep, absolutely. And we do see Silverfire going through and completing objective number 2, have Kakul forge the Legend Sword with Adamant. I do wonder, will we see any shopping here? I would guess not. But we do also get a Bahamut summon, so a relevant item coming from uh, the forge. We see Murasame. That is going to take quite a bit of selling to buy a Murasame. Uh, I don't know that there's enough in the inventory to even get there, to be completely honest. So this is bleeding a little bit of time here for Silverfire, trying to scrounge up enough cash that I just don't know if it's in the inventory to get there. Needs another 8K.
Those hourglasses will get you there, but we are getting, our Silverfire is getting what they need out of Marten. Marten is save scumming this rat tail, checking to see if this is the legend sword that he needs, has faded cave value, has faded Murasame altar. This is giving Silverfire another minute or two in order to try to catch up.
Yep, and still does get that Murasame. So uh, not not the quickest menu to get there, but certainly was able to get that Murasame, which will represent a lot of power. But I do wonder if all of this extra menuing is going to potentially play into the end result of this seed, even with Martin save scumming that rat tail, and giving a little bit of that time back.
So Marten is going to end up doing all 28 checks in the seed, deciding to do Murasame before that cave value where we know the legend sword is. And also, we'll be entering the Z fight without an adamant armor because unlikely to head back and move that hovercraft to the adamant cave concerning that pigtail. That's one advantage that Silverfire is going to have.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. That the adamant armor will be in Syl's possession in order to try to make their way through. And we do see some cure fours coming out from Rosa before going to the save point. So I wonder. Nope, just some nervous menuing from Silverfire, which is understandable this late into his seed. But going through and just making sure everyone's cured up, stops at the save point, and we shall see. I assume we're going to get the Queen spot for sure, get that Assassin Dagger, and then get the Tower Key from this Leviathan. And really, it's going to come down to how quickly Silverfire is able to get through not this Pale Dim, but in particular, it's going to be how quickly Silverfire can get through that Dr. Lugay at the top of the tower, in my opinion. If Silverfire is able to get, nukes off to stop the dialogue, that's going to be huge. As this Paladin is just going to melt to the spells here. It is weak to, not weak to white, but it will not absorb white like the Dark Elf form. So this is still going to be a very quick fight for Silverfire.
Both of these races right now, I would have to expect feel behind. We're approaching, or we're actually past the 100-minute mark. We're past the hour 40 mark. There's no dot done yet. Marten Broadcloak is about to realize, oh crap, it's in cave value. I'm about to 28 out of 28 this entire seed. There's no way I'm ahead. Silverfire, meanwhile, has a number of checks left, but this late in the seed, nobody feels ahead. Has had a lot of womps thus far. Full cleared the moon. They're both probably a bucket of nerves right now, and I would be very nervous if I was either one of these runners right now.
Yeah, we do see Martin making this final push though through this cave value. Of note, again, Silverfire's edge got taken down in this fight, and it made the fight a little bit longer than they would have otherwise liked it. And so I think Martin, again, by virtue of being able to make it through the moon a little bit faster, and by being a little bit more expeditious on the blue planet as well, is at least ahead right now. How far ahead, I can't really project or guess. But Silverfire will still have to do both halves of Tower after this, and to turn in the Sand Ruby, while Martin will just have to forge. Both have the pass, but I think Martin is probably ahead by, I would guess, 2 minutes at this point, somewhere right around there.
Yeah, I would give it to Martin by about half a tower at most right now. Because he will have to get through this fight. It's a relatively longer fight. He hasn't even transformed the Dark Elf into its next form yet, but will likely cast out a week and get through this relatively quickly. But you still have to go down to Earth. You still have to turn in that Adamant, get through the cutscene of the forging, get through the cutscene of getting the crystal. Meanwhile, Silverfire by that point will probably be at the top of tower, if not done with the top of tower by that point. Will
Yeah.
have ended up not doing 28 out of 20 on the seed, but end up doing, I believe, 26 out of 28. So that's advantage Silverfire in this situation.
Yeah, and a small thing of note here, the week that was queued up with Rydia, excuse me, Pale Dim, the Dark Elf Dragon form did bop that Rydia. So that does slow down that fight by about 25 seconds, where we have to wait for Palom to get a week and for Edge to bop that Dark Elf. And so there is that Legend Sword. So Marten Broadcloak now has everything in his inventory that he needs to complete the seed. Off of flight time and everything else, he is going to be probably 2 minutes from entering Zeromus, whereas Silverfire is probably 3.5 minutes now, made up a little bit of time because of that shared misfortune, if you will, on the Dark Elf Dragon form.
So this is still a very, very, very close race. Martin will likely get into the Romus fight a little earlier than Silver. I'm not sure if Martin has that much of an advantage in the Zeromus fight, however. That Rydia, I don't believe, ever got to nuke. May not have a whole lot of, you know, uh, ability to provide support in that fight, and looks like may not even be going to the fight at all because here comes Tella in the place of Edge. That's
Oh,
interesting. Oh, Rydia did indeed make it to level 51, so we do have double nuke up as well as
okay.
Light. This is going to be a full reflect fight.
Yeah, so this means that Martin has actually a much better, much faster Zeromus fight than Syl will have. This is also on Syl's side one of the things that I was speculating on. If Syl could have gotten Palom in slot 2 to be the first actor here and nuked Dr. Luge, excuse me, right off the bat, there would have been no text, no ouch, no attack them, no none of that. So that's a lot of time that is going to be dropped here on Silverfire's side. So Martin is going to be doing full reflect, is going to be up a little bit of time here. Will we get to Spoon Dart? We do. So now on Silverfire's side, darting the spoon will make this fight faster, but it takes out the potential of having a spoon dart being used in the Zeromus fight, where you may want to end up going with a double reflect and a darting edge as your way through. Silverfire, though, picking up their Sand Ruby, this puts both of our runners now in go mode as far as having access to everything they need to complete the seed. And we are getting some shopping from Martin on this side, a couple of crystal rings for the party. That is, some really nice equipment to help them with their magic defense.
There we are. We are done with the forge on Martin's side. That is our crystal. Martin, our first racer here with 7 out of 7 objectives complete, heading straight to Zeromus. I have to wonder though, was it worth picking up those 2 crystal rings? They're very nice items, of course, and increase your survivability against Zeromus. But that was, 20 seconds bled by selling out your inventory, freeing up 100,000 gold in order to make that purchase. At this point, against a racer of the caliber of Sylverfyre, I'm not sure if you can feel comfortable giving up that amount of time.
Yeah, I think at this point, Martin may be thinking also, though, I had to 28 out of 28, 17 out of 17 this. I wonder if my opponent did the same thing. Uh, it's not an unreasonable thought that, would go into that it could be a situation where you just want to make sure you're able to get through, and that gives you the best and safest possible way through. But Rybon, whilst we have Sylverfyre going through and completing, that super cannon destruction, we have Martin heading into the final fight, and I see some Z flags or some nap time symbols or something in chat. I don't really recognize them. So can you parse that out for me, my friend, as the smarter of the two individuals in this booth?
Of course. Well, people seem to like to say that it's time for naps, but it is not time for naps, even though it's 1 a.m. over here on the East Coast. It is time for Zeromus. I would love Scalakitty or Boardface or anyone else from the admins to move Zeromus to the Antlion Cave, but that is not happening. We can't move him. But instead, we just changed the way he looks, changed the cosplay of the particular seed. So we're going to see what Zeromus looks like, and they're the question that we like to ask, which is, whose butt are we going to kick tonight? And is it wearing a hat?
I mean, technically, everything is wearing a hat. It is simply the space above its head. There's always atomic matter there unless it's a complete vacuum.
Suppose, but I would think that a hat would need to at least be a solid, not a gas type of atomic matter. But I mean, I guess I'm not a physicist, so I don't actually know.
Neither am I. I'm just a possum. We're bad at math and science and reading and a whole bunch of other things. We're great at eating. And speaking of eating, Martin is going to have a reflect party, eat whatever boss pops out of here, barring unmitigated disaster. That is Astos and Astosmus, and that is probably going to be a direct nuke from Rydia to nerf this. A white being reflected, and Martin has a pretty conventional reflect strat here. I suppose the worst case scenario here would be the counter nuke kills Rydia. We'll see where it lands. It hits Palom with a Veil, and this fight should be elementary from here. Meanwhile, though, we do have Sylverfyre entering the Zeromus fight as well, or at least turning the pass in. So we are going to have dueling Zeromus fights. If Martin does wipe here, then this becomes advantage Sylverfyre. So after all of that, and after both of our runners 17 out of 17 in the seed, it comes down to but mere minutes apart.
Yep, I agree that it looked like it was a far apart seed for a period there, but I mean, Martin had maybe like a minute and a half advantage getting to this fight. With the reflecting strats, of course, a higher risk type play in my opinion. At least I always screw it up, but a generally quicker play on this particular Zeromus fight. We'll see if Martin can pull it off, and if he can, this should be his race to lose.
Yeah, we do see here those nukes flying out. No big bang yet, and there has got to be darn near 40,000 damage pushed already at this point. So one of the cool things about Reflect Strats is Zeromus has a script where after 45-ish thousand health it refills and gets another 60,000. By doing Reflect Strats, no counter scripts are ever initiated. So just like with a lot of other bosses that don't have any of those things come into play, you won't have those things come into play on Zeromus, which Martin taking full advantage of, while Sylverfyre is moving some things around in their inventory and going to see their Astosmus and is berserking up that edge. So this will be a hybrid fight most likely for Syl, which will be a little slower, but probably safer. But I think Martin is objectively ahead here, and yeah, there is the crumble. So Marten Broadcloak with the reflex strats getting the white kill with Rosa and moving on to the round of 16 with an official time of 1:50:26. GG's to Marten Broadcloak.
Absolutely. GG to Marten Broadcloak finishing. We'll be facing Nightdew, I believe, in the next round. So that's a very hype matchup in the round of 16. But let's see if we can get him in here to give his thoughts on this very difficult flag set.
Yeah, not just this difficult flag set, but this seed that presented a lot of early game challenges, really made a lot easier by Rydia with Sylph, and I believe with that dinging in our ears, we are joined by someone who sounds a whole lot better and less annoying than Rydia using Sylph over and over again. GG's to you, Marten Broadcloak.
Wee woo woo woo. Look, give me some tools to work with, and you won't have so much wee woo woo in your life, okay?
Well, you got tools to work with. They just needed 50 levels and an hour of time to get there.
Yeah, boy, that was fun.
So you went through, you did a lot of early game stuff on the back of Rydia casting Sylph and Yang punching for like 87 damage and Palom helping as well. What were you looking for? You know, Sirens being the obvious one, but what else were you looking for to try to really help with that team?
I'm not sure there was another character. It's not easy. I mean, you know, Yang needs levels, and everyone knows this. So even buying those 2 poison claws early, it's like, great. It's a giant HP potato. Okay, well, I have Sylph on Rydia, and I have level 2s on Palom. I will figure out a way to make it work. And I'm really glad I went and spied the Darkness Crystal, because those Sirens made a huge difference on getting people online so they could actually do things.
Now, that was one thing I did want to ask about. Notice that you immediately had purchased 9 Sirens and basically sold off your entire inventory to do so before even checking the character. Had there been like a Tella on the moon or something like that, would you have considered, you know, resetting? Would you have considered a D machine grind? Or once you saw those Sirens, you were hard committed to that regardless?
The Sirens were basically for flavor. I looked at my key item count early, and it's like, okay, well, there's probably a decent shot this time around I'm going to hit 10 on Earth, so we'll buy the Sirens just to, you know, get a little flavor first, and then, you know, the big XP later. You probably saw I stared at that Tella for a good 10 seconds, thinking about, I could go do Deep Honey. I could. Val's still out there. I don't want to go all mages yet. So I threw him away and, you know, just kind of ran with what I had. Once I saw that edge, you know, the plan was there. That was my Val protection. And kind of, you know, ran the gambit from there.
Yeah, and we noticed that you had also done, I mean, just Earth check after Earth check after Earth check, and faded the moon objectives for quite some time. Was that a calculation on your part, or is that, you know, something that you just did for this seed? What was kind of your mindset with how you routed with that very Earth heavy and, you know, Feymarch heavy route?
I, for we know the whole idea behind K main, K moon, K summon checks, and doing all of those. If they hadn't, you know, kept chaining one into another, giving me something else to go look. When I hit 10 key items, I thought really hard about going to the moon, but I also didn't want to get beaten by a single check, which is why I did both Baron Basement and Luca prior to leaving. I thought really hard about leaving that rat tail. I knew the hook was on the moon at that point, and I told myself if I was going to walk it out as soon as I found that hook, whenever it fit into the plan, I was going to scum the hook for the rat tail and, you know, live or die with the result of it. And it didn't work out this time. So, you know, one
Yeah.
full clear of the moon, one full clear of the seed later. There you go.
And I did just want to interject real quick. Silverfire did end up finishing in second place, very close behind, 153.33. So GG's to Silverfire as well, but
Yeah.
3 minutes behind. Oh, what a heck of a race this was! And we did have an interesting discussion about the potential of you diving Luca and
Mm.
resetting out of that rat tail. Because we had already seen that it was a rat tail from Silverfire, and it was
Mm.
an interesting conversation should you choose to watch it back.
Yeah. I'm definitely planning to watch it back, especially with, I mean, obviously Sil is a heck of a racer, and this was kind of the race I expected to have tonight. So I'm very glad I came out with a win on this one. But yeah, that was a seed. So did find a few things very interesting. Sold Odin to the Odin only shop, so I will be redeeming that one later.
Cheers.
Um, yeah, but no, other than that, I mean, thank you obviously to both you, Rybon, Chaz for tracking, Charlie for rolling this. So I like I say, I have my workout cut for me next round with Night Dew, but back to the drawing board.
Absolutely. And Rybon, speaking of you being mentioned by Martin there, apologies, I did a bit of mic hogging there. Do you have any questions for Martin?
Just one question and one comment. I'll start with the comment. Martin, you are a man of principle. I mean, in a very close race where you ended up 28 out of 28 and 17 out of 17, you hit that rope of shame and you still looted the chest. So
Absolutely.
my hats off to you. You are a man of principle. But
I'm
you also
sorry it was
mentioned,
only 500 gold and not something useful, but yes.
well, regardless, I appreciate your commitment to the bit. And my question, though, you've already mentioned you're up against Night Dew next
Yes.
round, a very difficult opponent. How are you feeling about that particular matchup?
I mean, Night Dew was, early campfire days. We used to all race, myself, Possum, Night Dew, Pancraz, and I know fully well what Night Dew is capable of. So, um, it's going to be a task, and I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Oh, good. Well, so am I. I mean, there's going to be, of course, very hype matchups in the round of 16, but I think that may be one of the top ones, and I'll be looking forward to watching it.
I hope to put on a show for y'all. So,
But no, with that, I'm pretty much out of questions for Martin. Possum, do you have any final comments?
No final comments, just job very well done, Martin. Good race to you. Good race to both of you, to be completely honest. It was a heck of a show, and for a very long time, we had absolutely no idea who was ahead. So we thank you for the great entertainment on this Friday Eve, and I hope that you can have a great rest of your night.
thank you, and GG to you, Sil. Well done.
Yeah, GG, thank you.
And as y'all have heard, we are also joined by Silverfire, GG Silverfire, and not the result you would have wanted, but a heck of a race regardless.
Yeah, I'm happy I at least played decently well. I made some trip ups. Those probably cost me at least 3 of those minutes. Um, these things happen. You make mistakes and then they cost races.
Well, I mean, from the booth, we didn't really have any thoughts on like major mistakes or anything that you made. So I'm a little curious about that comment, before getting into any other
Um,
questions. Like what was your mindset? Like what did you think really tripped you up?
so
Because we
first
didn't
first
see
mistake I
much.
made. I always like to go it with looking and criticizing the first mistake I make in a race. The first mistake was not setting my rows correctly prior to that Demus fight.
Mhm.
And that made it difficult to keep my mages alive while also having Yang in the front row for punchiness.
That's definitely fair. That was a tricky fight for both of you, I will add, given the relative lack of power that you two
Mm-hmm.
collectively had. That was not going to be easy, regardless of positioning. Um, so I wouldn't beat yourself too much up over that.
Yeah, but
Because it's tough.
I'm not. It's not about beating myself up. It's about acknowledging my mistake.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So as you were kind of progressing through the seed, you made some awesome decisions on like what to fade, what not to fade. Things like Dwarf Castle is part of that just because of the length of the check. And
Absolutely.
okay, that's kind of what we thought, that it might be due to the length of the check, and that it's two bosses, some cutscenes, and only one key item. And you were finding key items left, right, and center as well. So we thought that might be part of it, and glad to get affirmation on that. And you went to the moon, leaving a lot of things on Earth, including the required Queen of Summon Monsters spot. Can you kind of take us through,
So I was only
your
like
reasoning on that?
I was only like level 21 at the time,
Mhm.
and given how many key items we needed, I was like, the chances of this not being a seed that I full clear the moon are kind of unlikely. I want to have 10 key items, go to the moon, and come back powerful enough that I can just wipe the floor with everything I left behind. That's pretty much how I played it out. My regret was the sealed cave play, really. I think that was kind of a little too greedy with how that spot can be.
Yeah, that was one thing that we did notice, was that the waves coming out were doing just slightly more damage than Edge had for health, or just enough to make it really awkward to survive. That fight kind of tripped you up a little bit. But you made the necessary adjustments. You put that curse ring on, you set your battle speed where you needed to, and we thought you adapted very well to it, even if it did
Yeah,
take an
and it's
extra
like, it's one of
attempt.
those things that, like, even though I adapted well to it, I should have been a little more. A little more, like, just aware of the risk I was taking. And knowing that kind of risk, maybe even just popping my Siren before going in so that the fight would go a little faster. I'd get that wave damage down a little bit faster. I wouldn't
Mhm.
come with a messy kill.
Still
Because,
though,
like, even though I was able to handle it, I was not able to handle it efficiently.
hindsight is 2020, and there are plenty of fights down there that you could have easily handled with that curse ring that you had and so forth.
It's
Kaynado was just an
true.
unfortunate roll.
There's just also a lot of fights that could have given me a lot of difficulty. So,
Yeah, I did want to say another thing that we thought was very heads up. After you had used your Star Veils early on to get through Asura, and you did a great job of getting through that fight at Baron and 2. Before going to the moon, you shopped around a little bit, and you ended up picking up those Star Veils, which we thought was a very
I
astute
knew
thing to
that
do.
I knew that I had not seen a certain dragon.
Yeah.
I knew that if that dragon was on the moon, Rosa with Wall would not cut it.
Yeah, I think that was definitely something to highlight, though, as really good, very high level, big brain type stuff, to not go super underprepared, knowing that Star Veils are available on the overworld somewhere. Just thought that was a really good play on your part. But this, will be the end of your run in this tournament. Um, but what are kind of some of your free enterprise plans post tournament, if you have any, or if there's any other games you're playing, or self shout outs you can do, so that
Oh,
we can get some folks to check you out.
I'm an FF14 raider. I'm really looking forward to the ultimate raid that's coming out.
All right, Dragon Star
Excellent.
War, right?
Yeah, Dragon Song War, and I am incredibly excited for it.
Going to be a good one. But one other question too. So you proved to be a real, terror here in Adamant Cup, coming out of your group and taking Marten to the wire here in game 2. I'm gonna guess, or I'm just gonna throw it out there. I'm assuming you're gonna reload and be back for ZT5, right?
See. Summer is got things going on that might preclude that, but we'll see. I have been a little bit kind of hit or miss when it comes to whether I feel like competing in one of these tournaments.
I gotcha. Well, no pressure, of course, but I look forward to seeing you back if you do choose to come back.
All right. Well, Syl, we'll let you have the last word. And anything that you would like to bring to the collective Free Enterprise universe's attention, or any shout outs you'd like to make, the floor is yours, friend.
I don't have a whole lot to say, but I'm looking forward to watching the tail end of this tournament for sure.
All right. Well, thank you, Syl, so much for an amazing set of matches with Marten, an amazing run through the tournament. And I wish you, the best in your post Adamant Cup endeavors. And I hope you have, a great summer. If whatever is got you busy and keeping you on your toes, I hope it all goes very well for you. And enjoy that Final Fantasy XIV rating.
Oh, absolutely, I will.
All right. Well, Possum, I think that wraps it up for us tonight, huh?
Yeah, I do believe so. We are going to be finishing up this broadcast, but there is always more Free Enterprise this time of year. Just when you think it might be, I don't know, what, 1:30 Eastern time, 10:30 Pacific time. We are still not done. There is no more racing this evening, but we do have a couple races coming up tomorrow to just highlight out. That we have at 6 Eastern on the Free Enterprise channel a certain McBain versus Rybon. I think you might be familiar with that character, Rybon. And then at 8 o'clock Eastern on Free Enterprise 2, we have Woobear and Xenocat. And stay tuned in case there are other matches that may be added to the Restream docket, as we do have some other games that have crept up on us. And stay tuned all this weekend for some great matches. But we will be heading over to, and I apologize, I believe it's Sophilatia. Not sure exactly how to pronounce it, but it is Trans Games for Trans Liberation fundraiser, and this is day 2 of that. And Free Enterprise is being currently run on that channel by one of the members of this community, Ultros Professional. So let's make sure we go cheer on Ultros Professional whilst doing that run and give them our love. Remember, no spoilers, please, or you will get the bonk. But for all of our runners this evening, for Marten and Syl, please give them a follow and give them your love. Behind the scenes, Chazman pushing the buttons, Reckless Charlie doing the restreaming, and of course, Rybon, who is being featured tomorrow on Restream as a racer, did a bang-up job on commentary as well this evening. So thank you, Rybon, and thank you everyone in the Free Enterprise universe.
And thank you, Possum, for keeping me in line. It was great. And again, thanks for this lovely vanilla, Charlie. I don't know how you did it, but there wasn't a whole lot of variance this seed. And Chazman for pressing literally every single button available this seed. Hats off to you. So that tracking is way harder than it looks. But again, thank you all very much, and we'll see you next time.
Trans allegory.